So it won't actually help him
Sigh.
in that case.
Maybe that's why he's so full of himself.
Okay, you know what?
He
This
doesn't
is
remember all
going
that
to
shit he did.
Oh, Dante.
Alright, I'm not going to write up everything I plan to write up because I kind of realize it will take way too long, and I will just read it and hope that works. But basically, yeah, this is the first canto. It basically translates to the sort of very famous opening. Midway through the journey of our life, I found myself in a dark wood where the straight way had been lost sight of. And there's sort of a lot of like very minor textual hints that really show like this is intended to be an allegorical thing and not purely like a this is what happened to me or a political text or something like that. The most obvious one is the our life, you know, sort of making it the plural, but also the sort of midway through the journey and the kind of like the sort of the placement that it has with the sort of biblical every man goes into hell at this point in his life is sort of it's kind of a spiritual midlife crisis kind of thing that like everyone was supposed to sort of go through. And in the first sort of canto of the Inferno, there's a lot of sort of traditional tricks of like alliteration that have particular meanings, like the sort of repetition of the SV sounds is sort of, it harkens back to a particular type of alliteration in Latin that is sort of intended to have a sibilant hissing sound reminiscent of the sort of sound of demons or snakes and that kind of thing. The whole process of going through the dark wood is really laden with allegorical things also. He comes to this mountain perched above a dark valley, and there's the mountain is very clearly meant to be a metaphor for salvation. There's a sort of sun rising at the top, and he talks about sort of how the planet is meant to sort of light everyone their path no matter where the road is. Clearly sort of a metaphor for God, and his whole process of going up through purgatory and heaven is a sort of similar ascension. And in his process of walking up, he sort of talks about how, like, his left foot is always the lower than his right. And this doesn't just mean the slope was steep. There's a sort of medical theory at the time that the left side of your body houses sin and the right side has less of it. So it's sort of, he's walking up sin foot down. And he actually has another part, this is for you, Peter, where he's sort of talking about the terror in his heart's lake, which had turned in his heart's lake throughout the night, beginning to ease when he sees the light in the mountain. He actually means this literally. They thought there was a lake in the middle of your heart, and it was sort of where the emotion of fear came from. Like, there's sort of a gooey bit. So Dante, being a member of the Apothecary Doctor Guild, clearly knew about this heart's lake, and, you know, was bringing some medical knowledge into the whole affair. Another thing is sort of the tripling of everything, which obviously there's the Trinity, there's Satan as a sort of anti-Trinity with the three heads, as he's going, there's 33 of the cantos, there's the 3 books of the Divine Comedy, and as he's going up the hill, he runs into 3 beasts, each of them symbolizing different kinds of sin. There's a leopard, a wolf, and a indeterminate sort of creature that there's argument over exactly what it is, but it's because the literal Italian word is sort of beast. And they symbolize various types of sins that prevent Dante from the sort of virtuous path up the mountain. Yeah, there's some more stuff I could go into in the Italian and the allegorical, but I think I've been talking for quite a while, and I don't think I can get all the Italian up. So if you have any questions about it, feel free to.
Actually, for the record, you've only been talking for 45 minutes. So if you'd like to continue.
Well, no, I think I'll let people ask questions if you want to go over the Italian stuff. It's a little hard to write up all of the first canto on the board. I didn't anticipate the...
Could you read and then, like, cite from the reading?
Yes, I could do that. Should I read in Italian or English?
Italian first.
And then English.
Ok. Nel mezzo del cammin di nostra vita mi ritrovai per una selva oscura che la diritta via è smarrita. Ai quanto a dir qual era e cosa dura, esta selva selvaggia e aspra e forte, che nel pensier rinnova la paura. Tante amara che poco è più morte, ma per trattar del ben chi vi trovai, dirò della altre cosa chi vo scorte. Io non so ben redir com mi vintrai, tentera pien di sonno a quel punto che la verace via abbandonai. Ma poi chi fui al piede d'un colle giunto, laddove terminava quella valle che m'aveva di paura il cuor compunto. Guardai in alto e vidi le sue spalle vestite già dei raggi del pianeta che mena dritto altrui per ogni cale. In English, that translates, I'm just going to stick, I think, to the Singleton translation. Midway through the journey of our life, I found myself lost in a dark wood, for the straight way was lost. Ah, how hard it is to tell what that wood was like. Wild, rugged, harsh. The very thought of it renews the fear. It is so bitter that death is hardly more so. But to treat of the good I found in it, I will tell of the other things I saw there. I cannot rightly say how I entered it. I was so full of sleep at the moment that I left the true way. But when I had reached the foot of a hill, there at the valley that had pierced my heart with fear, I looked up and saw its shoulders already clad in the rays of the planet that leads men aright by every path. There's more to the first canto, but that's sort of the first page of it. The Singleton translation is extremely literal. He follows the Italian almost word for word, but he is not what I'd sort of call the most poetic translation. I brought the translation I like slightly better. Let me see if the first canto translation differs interestingly. It differs somewhat. I can read that one too if you want. It's not wildly different because some of them depart so much that they're barely a translation so much as a sort of rewriting of the story. But midway on our life's journey, I found myself in dark woods, the right road lost. To tell about those woods is hard, so tangled and rough and savage that thinking of it now, I feel the old fear stirring. Death is hardly more bitter. And yet to treat the good I found there as well, I'll tell what I saw. Though how I came to enter I cannot well say, being so full of sleep whatever moment it was that I began to blunder off the true path. But when I come to stop below a hill that marked one end of the valley that had pierced my heart with terror, I looked up toward the crest and saw its shoulders already mantled in rays of that bright planet that shows the road to everyone, whatever our journey. Pinsky's translation, I actually think, preserves sort of some of the poeticalness a little better. His only problem is that he sort of breaks the cantos mid-sentence in a way I don't like as much, but that's sort of a typesetting complaint. I might have read like 9 translations of this. It's a little bit frightening. But, yeah, the only problem with reading it in English is you sort of lose a lot of the secondary meanings. A lot of the words that are used in the canto are basically the entire Italian language, when they standardized it, it went off of Boccaccio, Petrarch, and Dante, essentially. And Dante's, particularly his 3rd, 5th, 1st, and one other canto are read by everyone in Italy. Like, it's the most standard thing you could possibly mention. I'm not even sure if English quite has an equivalent. But even so, some of Dante's language is a little antiquated. Like, he has the same kind of thing you might find in Latin, where if the vowel in a word at the end of a word makes it not fit his rhyme scheme, he'll get rid of it. He doesn't need it. And word order, again, very dim grasp on it because it's not very necessary. And sort of, some of the versions of words he uses are the Latin root, or just pure out Latin, screw the Italian, because again, when he was writing Italian, it hadn't really been standardized, and he was sort of using a Tuscan dialect. So, you have a lot of, most of the Italian I know comes from Dante, so if I tried to talk in Italian, I would sound like I'd been transported from, the medieval ages. He sort of has some interesting different words for sins and, some non-standard pronunciations, usages, stuff like that. But, and a lot of the words have a double sense that you don't really get. There's one where he's talking about the straight path. It's dritto is the word he uses, and the literal meaning nowadays is just straight. But at the time, it had more connotations of uprightness and goodness than it does in the modern dialect. So the word still means the same thing, and it still has the same connotations you'd find with the word straight or upright in English, but they were slightly stronger then.
So, is the best translation straight path or straight way?
I'll look at the Italian, but I wouldn't say that there's...
The reason I ask is that the way is the earliest name for Christianity. And I was